All right, so good day, everyone. Welcome back to our new topic that we're going to be discussing on our remote coaching. Uh, Today, we're going to be discussing Module 7, project scheduling and time management. Okay, so last week we did our merged topics from Module 5 and 6 because of the exam week couple of weeks ago. Hence, I decided to actually just merge Module 5 and Module 6 within 1 week, and then being able to go back on our normal Module 7 Session 1, Session 2 discussion. So, right now, in our Module 7, Project Scheduling and Time Management, we're going to be discussing this topic is basically just an extension to the Module 3, which is about SDLC stages. And you're going to get the idea on why is because this is more like a time scheduling based on the SDLC stages that was discussed last module 3. Okay, so right now we're going to be talking more about time management and as well as scheduling your project, especially preparing you for your P3 final project. Okay, so last module 1, just a quick review from the previous P1. We've already defined what project is. We've already learned how to manage a project. We've already discussed on how to build a project, execute a project, gather information on the projects that we're building. And last week we've discussed about being able to identify the risk or specific risk to our project. And right now we're going to be talking about time management. But before we move on to the said topic, let's go ahead and start with a review first from our last week's discussion, which is about IT project risk management, which is from module 6. Okay, so what is a project risk? Now, project risk is something that may happen and affect the project. It is a condition or an uncertain event that would cause either two ways. It could be positive or negative that may affect the project or the four constraints, which is from module 1. The four constraints are basically your project. It is your scope, time, quality, and as well as the resources. Okay, so that is project risk. Now, a little bit of review or question before we actually dive deeper to the Module 7 discussion. This is more like a Module 6 review. So, your team is developing a system, but the database keeps crashing during testing. What type of risk is this? Last module 6, if you watch the lecture video, or if you're one of those from section 9 to 12 that we've been doing face-to-face discussion, we've discussed the 6 types of common risks that we've experienced on a project. That is security risk, technical, cost, and so on, right? So in this scenario, your team is developing a system, but the database keeps crashing during testing. What type of risk is this? Now you can pause this video or I'll give you 5 seconds before you actually decide on what is the answer. All right, so the answer to this is letter B, which is technical risk. Now I've already highlighted this question. Your team is developing a system, but the database keeps crashing during testing. And what type of risk is this? So it's basically a technical side of things or doing a technical side on your project, which is technical risks. Pretty much self-explanatory. Next question is, one of your main developers becomes unavailable for 1 week. What type of risk is this? Now, a lot of people get this question wrong, especially if it involves time, right? So I'll give you 5 seconds or pause this video before you answer this question. All right, so the answer to this is resource risk. Now, a lot of people would assume that this one is more of like a requirement risk or something that is related to schedule risk, right? Because it says unavailable for 1 week, which some of you would assume that it can cause problems to the project because it has delays, 1 week delays. But the question here is that what causes the delay? It is not how long, but it's more of like who causes the delay, which is in this case the main developer, which in category It is the resource risk. Now, resource risks are involved with manpower or a person that is in charge or in team or members within that project. Next is a user account is accessed by someone without permission. What type of risk is this? This one is pretty much self-explanatory. This problem is very common, and you can actually get this answer right. I'll give you 5 seconds to think of the answer in this question. All right, so the answer to this is security risk. It is more of like what? Data breach. Now, someone without permission accessed a user account. Now, the reason why we need to learn or do IT project risk management is that we need to identify specific risk. Why? Because the problem, especially in number two, we tend to focus on the things that may or may not be the risk or potentially the risk, and we actually ignore the real risk that we have, right? So let's say, for example, if we think that a person could cause delays and we think that time causes the delays of the project, even though the main problem is the person. So those are the things that we need to identify first in order for us to do the project without or deliver the project without any problem in some sort. So what can these risks cause based on the questions that I've asked earlier? This risk could cause technical problem, missing time or missing team members, and security issues. Now, these could cause what? Project delays. Now, delays can cause what? Could involve time, right? So, how can we properly manage projects on time? That is why we need to identify the topics today, from risk management to proper scheduling or project scheduling and time management. Okay, so a little bit of overview and we're going to be discussing today in this module 7 is we number 1 explain the importance of time management in IT projects. Number 2 is identify common causes of schedule delays in IT projects. We're going to be identifying different types of delays that we have experienced in throughout building a project, especially on your P2, P3 as an example. Describe basic project scheduling tools and techniques. Develop a simple project schedule for every project for your activities. And analyze how schedule delays affect other project constraints. And apply scheduling concepts to the same IT project used in previous modules. We're going to be learning that one by one in this main lesson. Okay, so in the previous topics earlier from module 6, we're going to be using your project from your IM because your groupings, including the projects that you have, will be the same groupings and project that you will be using in IT project management. Now, whenever we do some specific recall or scenario based scenarios or examples, I want you to think on the project that you currently have right now. Let's say, for example, in your groupings, and I want you to ask yourself, what happens if your project is delayed and why is time difficult to estimate? Okay, I'll give you 5 seconds or 10 seconds or pause this video to reflect for a while because you're going to be needing this to be used in your P2 or P3 finalization of your project, especially in your team collaboration. What happens if your project is delayed and why is time difficult to estimate? Okay, so once you get that answer, I want you to actually answer this question. Is finishing earlier always good? Now, this is based on the project that you were going to be doing. Is finishing earlier always good? Because let's say, for example, your project is planned for 20 days, your team finishes in 10 days, you have some ample time before the deadline, right, to prepare, and you actually already submitted it because you think that you're already done, and the earlier the better, right? The submission. So, is finishing earlier always good? So the answer to that is not always. Because why? Maybe you actually submitted on time, but they are rush development. Number two is skip some testing. Maybe have ample time, but you already submitted, but you missed all the times testing your project and you missed some important requirements, or you probably risked those potential problems that you may experience because you've already submitted it on time, and that is poor planning and at the same time poor scheduling. That is why we need to learn what is project scheduling in this Module 7 discussion. Now, what is project scheduling? Now, project scheduling is the process of identifying project activities, arranging their sequence, estimating their duration, and setting start and finish date. Now, to put it to simple terms, project scheduling is the things that we need or needs to be done when and how long that project will take. Now imagine your project. These are the possible activities based on the module 3, which is the SDLC stages. We have requirements, design, development, and testing. Those are the activities that we're going to be having in this scenario. No, this is just a review from your module 3, which is the SDLC stages, right? That's why I said earlier, this is more of like the cherry on top or just a simple extension to the topic that we've discussed last P1. So each activity needs a planned amount of time from the requirements gathering and so on. So that is why it is important for us to actually schedule. Now, why scheduling is important is number one, we can monitor progress as we seen earlier. We can actually use SDLC stages, and at the same time, we can monitor the progress. So it asks more of question, are we still on track? And second is find delays early. We can actually find different types of early potential problems that may cause delays, and we can actually meet the deadline properly if we can actually identify those delays, if we just properly dissect and track these potential problems that might cause delays in terms of scheduling our project. Next is use resources well. Who or what is needed? Okay, use resources well. We can actually be resourceful in the things that we have, especially if we are going to break down the task, especially when we're going to schedule the project. And lastly, which is the most important and common one, is to meet the deadlines. Can we finish on time? This is the more self-explanatory ones, especially when we're going to build the project. So what if we plan time poorly? Let's say, for example, a team thinks development will take 3 days, but it actually takes 8 days. That is the most common thing on a project. That is the most common problem that we always experience in terms of project. We always overlook stuff. We think that a specific project looks so easy, but the moment we actually submit, we actually realize that there are a lot of potential problems that we may face, right? So that is poor scheduling. Now, if we're going to actually delay everything and overlook everything, development is late. That is the potential result. Testing starts late, and as well as project may miss the deadline because everything in the SDLC stages are already delayed and you actually overlook the deadline. So I want you to always remember that poor scheduling can affect the whole project. Okay? When you always do poor scheduling, if you don't have a proper schedule on your project, especially in applying the SDLC stages and not properly estimating the time, you will or it will affect the whole project in itself because the main backbone of building your project is time. And the time that is already given to you in that project is already limited and you have to use it wisely. So a scenario here is that testing discovers a serious system bug. This is more of like the uh, scheduling problem that we may face. Okay, and I want you to answer this and identify what kind of delay is this based on the scenario here. So testing discovers a serious system bug and the developers need several days to fix this. So what do you think is the delay in this scenario? Is it letter A, requirements related, B, technical, C, resource related, and D, external? Now, this one is maybe not discussed with us right now. I just want you to actually, based on the scenario, and then look for the potential answer here, especially on the highlighted one, serious system bug. So this is more of like a technical side, right? So the answer to this is technical. The reason why it's technical is because it's more focusing the system bug, which causes the whole delay and it causes the whole time or needs several days to fix it. So that is the potential delays that we're experiencing here in this scenario. So it is all connected as DLC stages, from projects to potential risk, and as well as causing delays on not really knowing or scheduling the project well. Okay, so to end this discussion that we have, so this discussion is very short because it's more of like, once again, an extension to module 3. If you're going to look back to the module, which talks more about the SDLC stages, this is more of like, how do we actually manage SDLC stages properly based on scheduling the time well. And we're going to be using the activity so that we can further visualize on the things or the importance on how do we actually schedule the projects well. So again, we review project scheduling is planning activities, the sequence of those tasks that we have, the duration of each of these sequence tasks, and as well as setting up the dates so that we can properly meet the deadlines. So why do we need to schedule? Number one is to monitor progress, use resources properly, find delays early, and as well as importantly, meet deadlines without any problems or delays. The common delays that we have are requirements, time estimates, technical problems, the resources, and other external factors. Now, finishing earlier isn't always good. Now, there are maybe times that you have to finish things early. However, you need to plan the sequence of the tasks that you have to do so that the moment you actually maybe submit earlier, there are lesser risks or problems because you schedule things properly. Those are the Module 7 first session, which is project scheduling and time management. So for your Module 7 activity, I already gave it to you. You have the whole day to actually submit this less practice activity, and this will serve as your grade for this session 1. So thank you so much for watching. If you have any concerns or questions, just feel free to ask questions in our messenger group chat, or you may directly message me on my account. So if you have any questions before the wrap up quiz or final grading, just message me anytime. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next discussion.